All right, hello and welcome to another Expert Inside interview. My name is John Golden from SalesPOP, online sales magazine, and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted to be joined from across the country in Gainesville, Florida, by Justin Long. Probably equally sunny there, if not more so. Am I right?
Most of the time, it's either hot or it's raining.
Yeah, or tropical rain, yeah. And Justin is author, podcast host, and hospital administrator for Spring Hill Equine Veterinary Clinic, which he owns with his wife. He's known for fostering a strong culture of learning and mentorship. You're passionate about the power of positive culture, mental health, and effective teamwork. Values you've learned the hard way from struggling with insecurity and toxicity early in your life, and now you're a dedicated advocate for helping young people thrive both personally and professionally, which is a great thing. So we're gonna talk a little bit about how do you come to a place of basically being able to understand yourself, then understand your team, and then understand your clients, right? What are some of the ways that you have used, just in to understand yourself first, and then to be able to understand those around you?
It's been a crazy long journey for me. It started with realizing that I had a pretty serious drinking problem, and that led me to learning a little bit of self-awareness and trying to get to the reasons why I have a drinking problem. What is it that is my challenge in life that I'm not dealing with very well? Um, there's a long, complicated answer to that, and learning some of that stuff about childhood experiences that shape my behavior and my self beliefs. Also, I realized that impact the way that I show up in the world, the way that I handle everything, and
Mhm.
getting into trauma therapy and learning how to overcome some of my challenges and become a more emotionally aware person changed everything about my understanding of the workplace and teams and how I fit into all of those things. And from there, it has been an exciting journey. I'm on a program right now called Five Voices, which is a behavior assessment that's based off of the Myers-Briggs system,
Oh, okay,
and
good. Yeah.
learning that as a tool to get to know my team.
Yeah. Thank goodness I thought you were going down the schizophrenic route there for a minute.
Not yet.
Yeah, but Myers-Briggs, excellent. So you mentioned self-awareness there, Justin, and I think that is such an incredibly powerful thing, and it's something that unfortunately, I just speak for myself here. Unfortunately, some of us like me come to later in our life. Yeah, how
Hmm.
how do and we live in a world now, and I feel like where people are so distracted, they're entertained all the time. They don't take a minute to themselves. It's almost like the world is conspiring against their ability to become self-aware. And you just talk to me a little bit about the process of becoming self-aware.
So much of it, I think, is the world trying to make you act without thinking. And we were led by so much incredible advertising and being shaped, where social media guides us to believe things without thinking about them. So I think the first step is to recognize. For me, it was recognizing that I've been a pinball just bouncing around off of one thing to another, and with no real direction or focus or intent. I'm just reacting to things in my life. And when I realized that, that allowed me to step back and kind of get an outside perspective on myself and what's happening, and then recognizing how I'm interacting with other people and how people perceive me, which, as it turns out, is very different from how I perceive myself.
Yeah.
And that is one of the most important tools that you can develop, I think, as a leader or in anything, in any capacity where you're interacting with other people, is recognizing what they're seeing versus what your intent is.
Yeah, and you just mentioned there about the being a pinball and reacting, because I feel like that is a lot of people are trapped in that, like
Hmm.
reactive, because maybe they're overwhelmed, maybe they're distracted, maybe they've got some issues or whatever. But how difficult was it to realize that you were being reactive, and what were the steps you took to change, to actually take control a little more?
It was a challenge for me, and it involved a lot of therapy. But for me, my reactiveness to the world was about my lack of self value.
Hmm.
And when I was able to turn that around and develop confidence and believe in who I am, it changes everything about how I interact with people and what I need from the world around me. And that
Mhm.
allows me to act with intent and purpose rather than chasing things, chasing accolades, chasing misunderstanding of success and all of that kind of stuff. And just reacting when other people bring hostility into the business, which happens all the time. And I think in
Mhm.
any industry, recognizing that that's not a personal attack on me and I don't need to react in kind. Understanding that changes everything about how you deal with problems, I think.
Yeah, and I think and I think that's great, and I think that's a lesson people need to learn because we've lost a lot of that. It just seems we live in a culture where the faster you react, it seems to be celebrated, regardless of how what that reaction is, and often it's a negative one, but it's almost
For
celebrated.
sure. Yeah, people want to put a 30-second video of that on Instagram or whatever and humiliate you, right?
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And how much did understanding the different personality types help you in your journey?
Tremendously. I think the way we communicate with one another and the way we receive communication is very dependent on our personality type. And I'll use my wife as an example. We own the business together. My wife is a bullet point person. She wants 3 bullet points of information and she will make a decision or ask for more information after that. I'm a details guy. I want 3 to 5 pages of details on something. And so before we understood how to communicate with one another, I would smother her with information because I assume everybody needs 5 pages of details.
Hmm.
And she would starve me for information because she assumes everybody just needs 3 bullet points. And there's a spectrum of that. There's 16 different personality types. It's not just the 2 ways of coming at it. So the more you can understand how the people on your team communicate outwardly and how they receive communication, the better you and more effectively that you can become a cohesive team.
Yeah, and what other examples do you have of the way different personality types receive information? Because I think this is a really important uh, point on a number of levels. Because as you said, there's personality types. There's also generations. We've got so many generations in the workforce now,
Hmm.
um, and it's not necessarily that the boomer generation likes to communicate in this particular way, and the Gen Z's doing the. I mean, there's a bit of this crossover. There's some people in the boomers who love all the technology, love tech, all of that.
Hmm.
Some of them still need the relationship and all of that kind of stuff. So, just talk to me a little bit about some of the other personality types, like how they like to receive information.
I think that, as leaders, it's our job to bring challenge and support to our team. And that looks very different for different people based on their personality type.
Mhm.
My wife is the pioneer, let's go hard charging into it and figure out the details as we go kind of person. And to motivate her, all I got to do is tell her that it probably can't be done and it definitely can't be done within this timeline, right?
Right.
That's a personal challenge and she'll have it done today
Hmm.
just to prove me wrong. But some of the more softer spoken, nurturing people on my team need to know what resources are available to them, what the expectation is, and how I can support them and the group of people that they're going to be doing this project with. I can't just beat them over the head with the stick and get the same results that I do with someone like my wife. Not that I beat her over the head with the stick, but everybody responds to challenge differently, and everybody needs different levels of support. And so there is no cookie cutter approach to that. You have to get to know each individual and figure out what does support look like for this person and how is that different from the other people, and how can I tailor my approach to everything to each individual to take them right to the edge of their capacity and help them to grow without crushing them under the pressure.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the big challenges. One of the big challenges then is the fact that you can't. Once upon a time, whether it was effective or not is up for debate. But once upon a time, you could do kind of broadcast communications, or leaders could communicate in one way, like they'd send out a memo or whatever. That doesn't work anymore, and that's quite a challenge for a lot of leaders when they realize that no, that message has to be delivered in multiple different ways to multiple different audiences.
Hmm. I don't think that it was ever all that effective. I think that
Mhm.
our understanding of what a high functioning team actually looks like has changed. If you look at Ford Motor Company in 1935, I'm sure it was very broad spectrum approach to everything, and it was probably not very efficient. When you can take all of the understanding and knowledge that we have about teams and about psychology and about individual and individual roads to success, I think that it changes our understanding of what a high functioning, highly efficient business can actually produce.
And then from a point of view of leaders, then leaders today, obviously, because we live in a very complex world, and there's a lot of, you need a lot of expertise in different areas. You need people and systems with a lot of expertise in different areas. So you went back to, for a leader to be effective now, they have to have confidence in the humility, but the confidence to hire and trust people who know more than they do.
For sure. I think that was one of the hurdles that I had to overcome in the beginning. I married into running a veterinary clinic when I was 38 years old. And I had not been through trauma therapy yet at that point and dealt with a lot of my insecurities. And I felt like, I'm in a business filled with doctors and technicians, and I'm running on a high school education. And I had a wild inferiority complex in the beginning. But once I understood that my job is not to compete with them on who can have the most education or the most knowledge, but my job is to find the best individuals to be in the different roles within our business and support them in a way that allows them to excel. I don't need to know how to do all those things. I need to know how to find the people that can do those things. And just understanding my role changed a lot of that stress for me.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important thing, is like understanding the role and not getting trapped in that kind of imposter syndrome where you feel like you have to pretend you know everything. But that's not the point. The point is you should be celebrated. You should be like delighted. Oh, fantastic, Justin! You know all about this stuff. You're the expert. How do I help you do your job effectively?
Right, and I try to extend that to everybody on my team. From the highest to the lowest position, because everybody is bringing something important to the team. And if they're not, they probably shouldn't be on the team.
Right. So on that point then, that you have to create that environment though, where people feel confident and that they can bring additional things to the team. And that means you have to build a kind of an environment where people are comfortable doing that. That's something you work on.
Absolutely. It's really important to me that everyone in our team feels safe bringing anything to the forefront that needs to be talked about. We have a staff meeting every Friday, and I try to empower everybody on the team to talk about any challenge that they see. I've learned that the people who are doing the jobs are usually the ones that have a better way of doing that job. And I want to give them the power to suggest change. I'm never going to know that there's a better way of doing something in a position that I don't fill on a daily basis. So making sure that everyone has a voice, everyone has an equal voice. Nobody's going to get shot down or shouted down no matter what they want to talk about and bring to our attention. And just celebrating everyone's contributions, whether we use them or not. As the guardian type information guy, and part of my personality type is to try to find flaws in ideas. The idea being that it prevents us from making mistakes or going down bad roads that are going to cause problems for the business. But what that can look like when I'm unconscious about my behavior is that I'm just out there with an anti-aircraft gun shooting ideas out of the sky. And that is not creating a safe environment for people to suggest things, right? That happens 3 or 4 times and people stop throwing ideas out there. So I think you have to be encouraging of people putting the ideas out there, and then careful in how you discard them to people's faces. You don't want to make them not want to contribute ideas, because most of us are going to have 50 ideas on something, and 1 or 2 of them are the right idea. But you have to get through all of them in order to find those.
No, and exactly. And I think a part of that is, again, it gets back to communication. Is say when we have ideas and we're going to brainstorm, we're going to come up with objections to, we're going to come up with ideas for. We have to go through this process, and it doesn't mean that it's a bad idea. It just means that we need to explore it from all the different angles.
That's right.
Yeah. Another thing, here's a human nature one, and I'm sure this kind of fascinates me in many ways, is that we're really good at finding issues and problems, mistakes. So we're great at like coming along and saying, hey, Justin, just wanted to point out, there's a few things here that you didn't do correctly that you need to do, blah, blah, blah. Now, I walk by you the next day, you're doing everything beautifully, but I never stop to catch you doing it right. I only talk to you when, want to point out something. I don't go, this is great. And I think that's a human nature flaw that we have, but I
For
think it's
sure.
something as leaders that we have to, really pay attention to. Do we invest any time in catching people doing the right things?
Absolutely. And I think that is when we're talking about challenge and support, a large part of support is just acknowledging the effort that people are making, that they're doing a good job. And for some people, that's all. Once a week, a once a week check-in is
Mhm.
sufficient for them. Other people need to know multiple times a day that they're on the right track and they're doing okay.
Mhm.
But I think it's so important to know that everybody on your team needs to know that you know that they're doing a good job. And finding the appropriate frequency on that is just part of understanding your people, but absolutely imperative that you acknowledge the good stuff.
Yeah, and don't leave that. Don't say, "Well, I have a yearly review coming up," because who
Uh,
cares? Nobody takes them
do people
seriously
still do
anyway.
those?
I hope not, but I know there's a whole industry behind that, isn't there?
There is.
Again, I always felt I've said this multiple times on this show, but I mean, I've always felt that my experience with reviews, it's the same thing. It's the same human nature thing. It's like, hey, Justin, here's the two things you did really well last year. Well done on that, and now here's the 552 things I need you to work on that you didn't do so good.
Right. Had you mentioned them in the heat of the moment 9 months ago, like that could have been solved a long time back, right?
Right, exactly. But here's the other thing, Justin, is what do we do as well? This is another human nature thing. So Justin is great at these three things. You're not so good at these two other things. Where do I fixate? I fixate on the two things that you're not very good at. And then I invest
Always.
my time and energy in trying to make you good at those instead of going, hang on a second, this isn't Justin. He's never going to be good at these things. Those are just two things these three things that he's really great at. I need to figure out how I can maximize that. And that's a very different approach, maximizing strengths as opposed to always trying to fix perceived weaknesses.
Right. It is. And I think that, Jim Collins talks about putting the right
Yeah.
people in the right seats on the bus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And having appropriate expectations of the people on your team based on their strengths is so important, because if I expect my wife to remember all of the details on everything, I'm going to be disappointed in her every day, because that is not who she is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I expect one of the other doctors on my team who's a very feely, nurturing person, if I expect her to go hard charging into a confrontation with a client and manage herself, it's never going to happen, because she's going to get run over every time. I think it's critical to understand that and not have blanket expectations across everyone on your team, because they'll never fulfill it. You're just setting them and yourself up for failure.
Yeah, and don't get caught up in that. It's this thing that we have where we just want to fix things all the time, because sometimes
Right.
sometimes we don't need to fix something.
Let people have flaws. It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, and let people be good at what they're good at.
That's
Like,
right.
why try to force people to be good at things? But here's the thing: is I mean, I guess you'd agree, Justin is right. The things we do best are the things we're good at and we like.
That's right. Absolutely. I'm good at the things that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And I think if my dad had understood that, my childhood would have been very different, and I wouldn't have had to gone through all the stuff I've gone through, right? My dad
Yeah.
had that impossible perfection expectation that he held me to. And so I believed that I wasn't good at anything because of that. And when we do that to the people on our team, we crush their spirit over time, and they're never going to perform the way we want them to.
No, and I don't want to hire any perfectionists because perfectionists never deliver anything. Because you
It's never
can't.
good enough to ship.
It's never good enough to ship, and
That's
to be honest, at times I think perfectionism is an unconscious avoidance mechanism in many ways. If you don't put yourself, if nothing is perfect, then you don't have to release it. Therefore, you never get judged.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So what was the what managing a diverse organization, generationally, personality types, and whatever? Do you think leadership is becoming more complicated now, or is it quite simple? You just have to understand the dynamics better.
I think that good leadership is complicated. And, the rule with the iron fist can get you to a certain point of success with your business. And people do it all day, every day, and thousands of businesses across the country. But if you want to take a step beyond that and make your team a place that people want to be a part of and achieve more than the bare minimum, I think you do have to put more effort into that, and you have to find tools to develop yourself as a leader rather than just trying to force everything. Because I don't know. For me, that's getting by on the bare minimum is not anything that I'm interested in as a business owner. I want to get the most out of my business, and I do that through empowering my team and meeting people where they are and finding people who are as passionate about this business as we are. And we have a rock star super team because of that. And we achieve our gross production per doctor is more than twice what it was when I started here 12 years ago, because we've changed our focus and changed that dynamic of challenge and support. And I think you can do that with any business if you're willing to put the work into yourself as a leader.
Yeah, fantastic. Couldn't have said it better. A great way to round this off, Justin. So all of Justin's information will be below this video. But before we go, please do remind people about what you do.
I try to help the people on my team become the best versions of themselves that they can be. My wife and I have a veterinary clinic here in Florida. We have a podcast that we use to educate horse owners about horse health things. It's called Straight from the Horse Doctor's Mouth. I also write books about horse stuff and about mental health, and all those books are on my website at jboydlong.com. And I mostly just try to make the world a better place.
Fantastic. That's a great mission, and I would advise you to go check it out. Go check it out even if you're into horses, or if you want to look into mental health and that, which is really important. If you're into if both of you issues, go check out the links below. So thanks again, Justin. Thank you for joining, watching and listening, and I'll see you all again very soon.
Thank you.